Welcome back to Nebraska Hawks Nest. This is Adam. I am joined today by former Iowa running back, Tavian Banks. Tavian, how's it going today?
It's going great, man.
Hey, it's an honor to have you. You want to tell everybody a little bit right now what one of our favorite all-time Iowa running backs is up to right now, where you're living, what you're doing for work?
I live in the Des Moines area. Been here, gosh, now 4 years somewhere. Um, I am executive director over at the John R. Grubb YMCA in Des Moines area. So that's what I'm
Okay.
doing right now.
Is that the YMCA that's located downtown?
We're a little bit off downtown. So the Wellmark is the one that's downtown.
Okay.
Grub is a little bit, yeah, it's, you could say it's downtown, but a little bit on the other street of downtown.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. hmm
All right. We always start from the beginning. I want to talk to you a little bit about your recruiting process coming out of Bettendorf High School.
hmm
What schools were really after you, and what schools were you considering, and what made you end up deciding to become a Hawkeye?
Yeah. So I pretty much could go back then anywhere in the country. Got letters from every, any type of prominent football program you could think of. I was getting letters and recruited from. I also got a lot of letters. If people don't know, I was a pretty good soccer player also back in the day. So I was getting heavily recruited to play soccer at the same time. I did get basketball letters too. But people don't remember that I actually played basketball too, but actually did. But pretty much anywhere in the country I could pretty much go to. I happened to choose schools back then too. You could do. I don't know what they do now, but you could only do five
Yeah.
official visits.
Yeah.
That
It's the
might
same now.
Okay, it might be the same norm now, but five official visits, and I chose University of Washington. I chose Iowa. I chose Nebraska, and I chose Miami, and I chose South Carolina. I believe that was
Okay.
to do my visits. I only did 4 visits. At that time too. A lot of people, I don't know if they know, but you go during like the season, so you go during basketball season to these visits. So I was missing, the games and stuff. It's your senior year. You're trying to play all that type of stuff too. Even though I was going, for football and things like that, you still want to help your team and all those type of things. So, and I chose those schools just, back then. Again, Washington was prominent. Like a number one, the top 5 school. Same with University of Miami. Same with Nebraska. Iowa was my home state. South Carolina, I was actually going for soccer and football visit. So that's how I chose them.
Okay.
Mhm,
How did you say no to like a school like, you go down to Miami, you got the
mhm.
beaches, you got the weather, and then you got the University of Washington. Seattle's one of the coolest cities in the country. You
Yeah.
must have had that black and gold running through your blood to be able to turn that down.
No, I mean, like again, like people that know me, I was never an Iowa fan growing up. I was a big Notre Dame fan.
Okay.
And then again, I'm from Midwest and from Iowa, Bettendorf. So like Miami trip, that was the first time I ever been on a plane. Again, like Miami is the first time I seen like the ocean and a Lamborghini and like in real time. All that type of stuff is kind of like it was foreign to me. It's all the stuff you saw like in the movies.
Yeah.
So it was fast paced. I used to think like there's no chance I would ever go to school, like class or whatever case if I went to Miami. So that's why I ended up not going there. But
Okay. Yeah.
Washington was kind of like my top choice back then. It was just pretty and the mountains, and I just loved it there. But at that same time, back then, Washington was kind of like under investigation. I think they went on probation that next year. So we're talking like 93 or 94, they went on probation. So that was kind of like a deterrent just a little bit from Washington. Nebraska, not against Nebraska or anything, but I believe like Nebraska is kind of like next to a cornfield, like so, like the stadium was or whatever case. So I just ended up not choosing Nebraska. I happened to choose Iowa. Back then, you could go, like Iowa was one of the only schools that you could go to school in the summertime. Like nowadays kids graduate early and go and leave and get there. But I happened to have surgery my senior year on my shoulder. So I was going to be redshirting anywhere I went. But at Iowa, I could go to school early that summer. I could start rehab and all this type of thing. So that's a major reason why I chose Iowa too at that time.
And hopefully part of the reason too is that you're going to get the chance to play for legendary head coach Hayden Fry. Can you tell us what it was like to play for that guy? Because, everything we've always seen from him over the years, he is an eccentric, outgoing and just interesting individual. And that had to have been quite the experience playing for him.
Yeah, like Hayden was great, like storyteller. Had great stories. Obviously, a lot of coaches are just people in general that have done that type of profession for a long time. You run across a lot of great scenarios and situations and talking points, and just he had always great stories to tell about like just coaching and players and staff and things like that. So he's always like a joke teller, always had positive vibe, and it was just always great to be around and hear those things happen all the time from him.
During your time there, and correct me if I'm wrong, they introduced the banana peel jerseys like the ones I have behind me. And that really was before its time, kind of shocked the world
Right.
back then. Very innovative, made by Apex. Can you tell everybody what the reaction was like as a player when they show you these things and you're like, what in the hell is that? Like, that is such a way, like we said, a way before its time type of jersey. Did they do any sort of like unveiling like they do now, or were they just like hanging in your lockers? How did that go?
Well, I mean, like again, like we always say, like we were before Oregon was doing it and all these schools that do it nowadays. Like I feel like Iowa was a trendsetter way back then doing this stuff. It was a settlement, it was 50-50 probably from the players, because again that was the first inkling of that type of stuff happening. Some players loved it, other players were just like, the tradition, like and again, they're like wings, they're supposed to be wings, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought it was cool, just to have different uniforms in that time frame is just, I thought it was an awesome thing to do.
Yeah, no, they're seriously probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite jersey of all time. It definitely was something now that would be used more as an alternate because it's so flashy. And, Iowa is very much of a traditional, the old school Steelers look. So, but they're very nostalgic, and I love looking at them.
Oh, yeah. Yep. They're awesome.
I want to know about 1997, your game against Tulsa. You ran for over 300 yards against them. You shredded that Golden Hurricane, just tore them up. Can you tell us about how that happened? Was that like the football equivalent to being in the zone? Was the offensive line just opening up some gaping holes for you, or were you just on your game that day and shredding them up?
No, I mean, like in football, you can't really do anything like alone. Obviously, because it's more of it takes all players or offense players or whatever it is, whatever position you're at, to collaborate and I had to have blocking for offensive line and tight end and receivers downfield in order for me to run like that, like on that day. Or like any day, especially for a running back. There's just so much little that you can do on your own. So it's definitely a very like team oriented, and that's how I got like especially that day a lot of those yards.
All right, that was anybody that hasn't seen the highlights from that. It's a pretty interesting game. You shredded those guys up. Back in '97, your name was consistently mentioned too with Tim Dwight a lot in the Heisman race. Do you feel like with both of you guys being on the same team, being pretty much skill position players, that was a negative effect? And what was it like having your name mentioned among all the greats of the game?
I mean, for me, like people within Iowa, are the university, our team. They knew what I was capable of. And pretty much people in the Big Ten that have seen me play, all the previous years, behind Cedric Shaw and stuff. So it wasn't a shock or anything like that. The people that know, my capability, or people from Bettendorf, or the Quad Cities and stuff like that. So it wasn't anything shocking to them. And at the beginning of the season, like Tim was doing well, like previously, and up for the Heisman and things like that. So they were kind of like pushing, I would say, like the University of Iowa, they were pushing Tim's narrative, I would say, for the Heisman Trophy at the beginning of the season. And then, like I just came out like game busters there at the beginning, and then, they basically just couldn't deny my like playing ability or whatever the case, and able to get, votes or whatever the case may be, going forward for that season. But it's always tough, like again, like when you have two players, and especially, for us, me and Tim, from Iowa, also on top of it. It's just great, I don't think it's been, ever done like that or whatever case before. But like it was just great to be a part of. Me and Tim are still great friends to this day. Just two kids from Iowa, just like did great thing, and we're there at the university too.
All right. So I want to know, back then when you guys are both at Iowa and today, more specifically today, if you guys were to line up and do a 40-yard dash, who would win between you and old Timmy Dwight?
Well, Tim's in way better shape than I am. I'll say he's still like, he's probably like under his playing weight. I'm terrible over my playing weight right now. So so I'll definitely put my money on Tim right now. So but
Wow.
we're both like battered and bruised. I got two terrible knees and an ankle I'm dealing with. It's getting harder to get out of like bed in a certain time frame. Like those type of, it's aching, can't walk around like it used to anymore. So like I'm starting to work on like those aspects and PT and things like that
Okay.
nowadays, like going forward. I know Tim deals with some issues still, like to this day. He's got some like a bad hip, and just aches and pains going forward. So definitely, all those years and things like that of playing stuff definitely took a toll. So we're definitely feeling
Oh,
it now in our older age, for
it's
sure.
hell getting old, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrible.
You feel something new every day. It's just like,
Yeah, it
man, as
is.
soon as
It
you're
is.
out of the woods on something, then all of a sudden a new problem creeps around and you're like, I
Yeah,
just got better from this. And now I got something
right.
else going on.
Absolutely, it happens.
Oh,
I keep shaking my head on it.
Um, I talked to you about this real briefly earlier. Do you remember any funny or interesting locker room practice stories that the average fan wouldn't have been, privy to and able to see, where you just kind of look back and you're like, okay, this is not normal. This is insane. Anything like that kind of comes to mind?
Well, there's probably 98% that I cannot share, like on camera, that happened.
You
But
can
that's
share it with
that's
us.
that's the beauty of like sports and camaraderie and being on a team. That's if you talk to anybody, former players or anything like that, that's been part of or something for a while, that's what you mostly miss. You miss, like the bus rides or the airplane, or just the stuff that happens in the locker room all the time. But I mean, it's literally like a daily thing, that happens. Somebody said this, or this happened in practice, then it carried over to the locker room. I mean, there's just a ton of stories and things like that happen all the time. So I mean, there's no way I could. I mean, that gosh, how long that, all the years that I played and everything like that. There's a million stories. There's a million things that have happened. And again, 98% I can't share because it's probably not appropriate to, to do so.
Hey, this is an unrated broadcast. We don't have any FCC guidelines or anything like that. So if you wanted, you could tell us anything. We're not going to force you. But from what it sounds like, you might need to write a book or something like that to share some of these stories because they sound pretty great.
Oh man, I'm telling you, like me and my buddies, we talk about that stuff all the time. I'm telling you, if we were to write a tell-all book of experience from just, like even our college days, it would be a #1 bestseller. I'm telling you. Just off the field to playing to classroom to just the untold stories that people don't have no idea that happen or happens.
If you ever decide that you want to
seller.
If you ever decide you want to tell any of these, you got my contact information. So we're going to have you back on. If you're like, okay, I could probably tell this one. I wouldn't get in any trouble or get in any trouble. You let me know because we'd love to hear them. They sound like they're pretty good. I want to know a little bit about your process going into the NFL draft. Going into, I believe they were an expansion franchise at that time, just in their infancy, the Jacksonville Jaguars, a 4th-round pick. Can you let everybody know what was it like going through the draft process and eventually finding out that you were getting picked up by a team?
Mm-hmm. Well, for you guys, it was kind of tough for me. Like I was supposed to be a #1, a 1st-round like draft pick and stuff. So I sat around all day. Back then, there was two 2 days of the draft. So the first 3 rounds were on Saturday, and then the next whatever rounds, 4 through 7 were on Sunday. So literally sat around all day on Saturday waiting to get drafted and things. So it was terrible experience for that. But but it's just, I always wanted the opportunity to just be able to play, like an NFL. Yeah, you would hope that, like I went higher and things like that. But I always felt like if you get the opportunity, then you're going to be able to do what you do. I always just knew, like once I got there, I'll just be able to, they wouldn't be able to deny me anything or deny my talent or my playing ability. So that's all you can just hope for. And then everything else will just work itself out. Unfortunately for myself, I had a career-ending injury, so I didn't have, like the NFL career that I was hoping that I was going to be having. But, sometimes it's just in other players' cards, or it just wasn't in mine for that.
Yeah. Well, one thing I thought was interesting too is later on, you ended up being, I believe it was assistant running backs coach at Louisville under Bobby Petrino. Tell me about that experience. And then with Bobby kind of taking off and going to the NFL, getting himself into a little bit of trouble. What was it like coaching under Coach Petrino? And then how come you didn't stick with coaching? Because it looked like at that point you were going to be working your way into the college coaching profession.
Yeah, I knew Coach Petrino way before he was big time, like college coach. He was quarterback coach in Jacksonville when I was there, drafted and stuff like that. So I knew him way before that. But to be honest with you, it just it left a bad taste in my mouth. What happened when I was at Louisville? Meaning Coach Petrino left literally in a cloud of smoke, just left the program, went to the NFL. At that time we were really good at Louisville. Like the next year we were supposed to be even better. Coach Petrino, we had a meeting, literally like, we're going to win the national championship next year. We had a lot of players coming back, all those type of things were happening. We literally, I'm telling you, had a meeting before, I think it was the coaches convention, where Coach Petrino was telling everybody this and go down to represent, University of Louisville at the coach convention. great stuff like that. But literally, a lot of guys we found out on the plane as we got off that Coach Petrino accepted, or was leaving and was going to Atlanta. So we had guys get on the plane, like coaching staff and stuff, get on the plane and fly back to Louisville and not even attend the coaches convention because they just found that out. So, and a lot of people probably don't know, but you don't know if you have a job. You don't know if Coach Petrino is trying to take you with him. Any of that stuff happens. So it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Again, with coaching, you just never know. I didn't want to be like in Wyoming for a year, and then New Mexico State for 3 years, and then Florida for 1 year. So it's just some people it's fine and stuff, but with family and things like that, you just it's tough, and nothing against it. It's a great profession and things like that, but it's just sometimes it's just not for everybody.
What were your thoughts when the things went down? When it seems like he's got a track record of when he leaves somewhere, he just packs his bags overnight and just bails. When he went to he went to the Falcons, and he just left notes in the players' lockers like, "Hey, peace, I'm out." Like I see you later. And the players are like, "What the hell?" Like he left during the season, like they weren't even done yet, and took the job at Arkansas, and then I can't remember was it after like his first season he'd gotten that motorcycle accident with the secretary that he had been having extramarital affairs with. What was your thought process knowing the guy and having coached with him when all that stuff transpired?
I mean, again, Coach Petrino is a great offensive mind. You can't take that away from him in coaching. He got his players to play and things like that too. So, don't take away his genius of being a football coach and everything like that. Some of these guys, they get very big egos, and they're the biggest deal in town. A lot of times, and a lot of times in the state. So a lot of these guys, they think that sometimes they get too big of ego. They think they walk on water, and they don't realize until it stuff happens that it's not the case. Because a lot of them, they sit up on that pedestal for a very long time, and they forget that what they're supposed to be doing all the time, and how they got there, until they get knocked off a little bit. So
that's a good point.
It does happen. It's just sometimes it's just society, and guys they learn from it hopefully, and then make them better in the end.
One thing I was surprised about was with the way that he left, then Louisville brought him back again. And I thought at that point, okay, this guy knows how to win at Louisville. He's going to turn it back around again and get it going. And he just was never able to recapture that same magic there and get things going. So I was surprised by that. I did not expect him to not succeed the second time around there. What do you, from your outside perspective and your expertise, do you have any sort of opinion why he wasn't able to recapture that magic the second time around at Louisville?
Yep. So it was going in and out a little bit, but you're asking about Coach Petrino the second time around, why he probably wasn't successful as he was
correct.
The first time around. So yep. So the second time, again, he pretty much burned a lot of bridges with the stuff that happened, meaning he left Louisville. He left the NFL the way he did. Whatever happened to him, in Arkansas. So people and kids and families and stuff, they're looking around at that type of stuff. And then, if you go to Louisville, there's no telling what he might do. He could be telling you that, yes, I'll be here your whole 4 years if you're a recruit or something like that. But his track record shows that he might do something else. So that's going to deter a lot of families. Going to deter a lot of recruits from coming to play for him in a sense.
That's a really great point.
That pretty much goes for that pretty much goes for a lot of coaches that are similar to what Coach Petrino has done.
Yeah, and if we want to look over to the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the picture of stability in Coach Ferentz. who's been the coach 20 plus years at the University of Iowa and really built, the picture of stability for a football program, which is great because, these kids are coming in as a high school recruit. They know coach is going to be there. They know that, if we have a slip up and have a bad year, the school's not going to turn on him. They're going to stick with him and stay consistent. And coach has enough character that, if he's going to deciding he's going to leave, he's the type of person, he's going to lay that groundwork and take care of the people that are there that have done a lot for him. How connected are you to the current program and Coach Ferentz or anyone there? Do you ever make it back for games or any sort of like honorary team captain in your future?
Yeah, gosh, it's probably been like because I was back living in Illinois at that time. So it's probably been like 8 years now already. God, I'm getting old. To where I was honorary captain. Wow, I think it was 8 years ago now already. And yes, Coach Ferentz is still coaching, right? Um, but I don't get back too often. I got kids and family and stuff like that. It's hard to I don't know, like justify getting away. Kids got activities and things like that going on. So I really haven't been. I haven't been back since I've been here back in Iowa and things like that. But I would do watch them on TV. I'm a proud alumni, I would say. So definitely, like still rooting for them and hope they always do well.
Can you tell us a little bit about your family, personal life, what you got going on right now? I know you said, you have kids. You're an executive director for the YMCA there in Des Moines. How's life going for Tavian Banks right now?
Oh, it's good. Like you can't complain, y'all. I'm above ground. Being able to, pay my bills and have a life, a good life here in Iowa. Like there's a lot of other people that are hurting way more than I would ever, dream of and stuff like that. So there's no complaints on, what I'm doing or anything like that at all. I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have the life that I do. I'm very fortunate that I was able to play a professional sport. Very fortunate to be able to have a scholarship to go to the University of Iowa. So I mean, I was very, it's been a good life for me. Like in my what am I 47 now? So I don't really have too many complaints to gripe about.
Hey, it's a two-way street. We were pretty fortunate to have you and be able to watch you play for those years. It was an awesome experience, and we just can't thank you enough for all the great years and all the contributions that you've given to Iowa Hawkeye football, and just being able to see you now and see how happy and healthy you are and how well you're doing is pretty great. And I'm sure Hawkeye fans are going to be really excited to see that. So just wanted to thank you for taking time to come on Nebraska Hawks Nest and, catch us up on how one of the best running backs in Iowa football history is doing right now.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on. You got to change the name. Maybe you should say like Hawks in that other school.
Oh, in that other state. See, that's what we do here. That's what we do here. Like some of us are involuntarily have to live here. And so what we're doing is we're spreading the black and gold gospel and converting fans and connecting existing fans to know that, we're building a Hawkeye oasis in a Nebraska desert. So
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I hope coach does well over there. Scott Frost, he's a phenomenal coach. I don't know, like why it's not happening for him as soon as, it should be for him, but it's a phenomenal coach, and I hope he does well over there though.
Yeah, he is a great coach. I don't think they could have hired somebody better. And being patient as a college football fan, those two things don't really go together, patience and college football. But if you can win there, I think he's going to be the guy. He's a great coach, and hopefully he can bring them back up, and just not good enough to beat the Hawkeyes.
No, not at all.
No. All right, Tavian. Well, thank you so much for taking time to catch up with us and finding out what's going on with you. And we always end it with the Go Hawks.
All right, go Hawks.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too. Thanks for having me.